Hello, my name is Jason Smith and I'm with Foundations in Learning, and I'm here to share with you the WordFlight program. I represent two reading researchers and developers who've been working in this space for the last, 30 or 40 years. For the last 20 years, they've been focused on the challenges students have had making the transition from being users of phonics to fluent readers, readers for comprehension. And we know that 2/3 of students are not proficient with reading. Perhaps 50% of those students struggle with the basic reading skills necessary to get to fluency, get to comprehension. And so that's what our focus has been on. Their focus has been on is trying to ensure that they can help those students with their decoding knowledge and their ability to quickly and automatically recognize words so that they can get to fluency. If students don't develop the automatic word recognition that they need in order to get to fluency, they'll never make that transition. So it's something that needs to be actively developed for them. It's something that needs to be focused on, and unfortunately a huge percentage of the population has some difficulty making that transition from phonics to fluency.
All right, so we're focused in on literacy and fluency and those kinds of things. Let me just ask you, were you thinking when you did this that there might be a possibility? We have a lot of young people now in America that they are English language learners. They're coming from like 200 different languages now, that would be a big impact, right, in schools?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you were making this, were you thinking, I got to take a load off of some of these teachers?
So when we were making this, we were actually responding to the challenges that non-English learners were having with getting to fluency. However, when we got out into schools, educators in every building that we were in who were serving English learners discovered that they had the same challenges that those students who were native English speakers were having. They just needed more support with it, and that this would be the type of tool that could help them, like I said, bridge those gaps from acquiring knowledge of the rules to getting to becoming fluent readers. So it wasn't an overt effort, but it's been something we've been pulled into and we've been very successful with as we move forward.
I like that. Okay, so give me a couple points. What's different about you? I mean, there's a ton of products on the market, right?
Yep.
So going into making this, you probably had like 1 or 2, 3 or 4, maybe at the most, primary points you were trying to make. Tell me what those are.
So the first point was this whole notion of automatic word recognition. There is a lot of talk about word recognition. I think there's an assumption in the space that once students acquire knowledge of the rules of phonics, that with practice they can become automatic users of that skill. Simply not the case, unfortunately.
That's what the research now shows.
That's what the research is showing. That's what educators would report to us. They would do excellent instruction with those students, and they would still have 20 or 30 or 40% of their students who couldn't use those skills every time that they encountered them in new words or connected text.
Wow.
So that's the first problem, was automatic word recognition. The second is, who has that problem? It's very difficult to know. So one of the things that we do is actually measure whether or not the student has developed automatic word recognition, so we know which students need this type of support and would benefit from it and would be responsive.
So this is an assessment tool as well?
As well.
Oh, wow.
It's a system. Yep, it's a system of assessment and intervention. It's also a blended program. So there are digital aspects for the teacher and the student, but there are also teacher-facilitated instruction if they would like to do that with the students as well.
Okay, good. So that's your number one thing. All right, so then are you enjoying this? Are you seeing good things happen?
We're seeing lots of good things happen. We're seeing good things happen with respect to decoding, with respect to automatic word recognition, but more importantly, it's starting to translate into fluency and to comprehension scores. So we'll get great reports about students start now being able to apply those skills, and it's impacting their other assessments that are important and relevant to the educators in each of the districts that we're in.
Okay. If you were to choose, instead of you trying to get them to choose you, if you were to choose your customer, what kind of person is that?
So the person has to, first of all, acknowledge that there's a challenge in this particular way, and that sometimes is a little bit of a bear to pull out of people. Do they recognize that this is the issue that many of their students are facing? Then they have to have the commitment and the will to implement with fidelity. I know that's an overused term within this space, but this is a practice program and approach, so it's giving the students thousands of practice experiences in a very systematic way to help them develop these skills. If they don't use the tool, they don't get those practice experiences, they don't make the impact. So we need sort of the personality of the person to take this on, but we also need the environmental structure to be in place for them to actually implement with fidelity.
Well, what we really mean when we say that, though, is like if you're going to do something, do it right.
That's right.
That's really what we're saying. It's like don't partial it.
Right.
There's
Right.
another way I could have said that, but I didn't want to say
Partialize
it,
it.
like la la la. But I think the thing that I'm looking at now in the market that I think is really interesting and you're addressing is the fact that schools can no longer get away with triaging students. Some of them are just going to fail.
Yeah.
The private schools and the homeschool market and pretty much every industry is customizing and personalizing everything. And the expectation is that you don't fail them. And I think if I was in your shoes, tell me if I'm right, I'd want a customer who's resolutely unwilling to let anyone fail.
That's absolutely right. That
Good.
is absolutely right. We need people who believe that all of these students can make it under the right conditions. And WordFlight is a tool that can help create some of those conditions and support those conditions. But if you don't believe that, everything else fails.
I believe it. I believe in humans. I believe every one of them can do it.
We believe that too. We also believe people can get distracted. So we do have to have processes and priorities.
Yes,
and
we have to
work
have
through
that.
But yeah.
Well, yeah, that would be like if no one had logistics over at Amazon, you're not going to get your package.
As much
It's
as you
not
believe
gonna
that,
happen.
as much as you believe that everybody should get a package. That's right.
Yeah.
Leilani, can I ask, because I love how you're asking the questions, but one other thing I would wonder if you've seen that, as states are implementing the science of reading, right, there's a lot of movement with policy and funding, but their definition is limited to teaching phonics instruction. And if you look at the 5 pillars, you're missing, there's a gap between that and fluency. And that's where WordFlight comes in.
Yeah, so first of all, you're speaking the language of the people literate in the K-12 arena, right?
Right.
And
Exactly.
I don't know that many legislators that even think the way you're thinking. I'm just saying,
Sure.
you got to simplify this down. First of all, introduce yourself to the camera, please, my dear.
Ileana Rowe, and I work with the WordFlight team in marketing.
Yes.
Katie Elliott, and I do public relations for WordFlight.
Well, I think what you're really looking at, and we're at a time of change, right? Enormous change. And I can tell by anybody who's watching anything going on at the federal level, no one up there in our government knows what they're doing completely, like what really needs to happen for the people right now, right? And when you get down in the education field, it's just so much change. You can't expect them to understand the minutia of what you were just talking about.
Right.
I think that we have to lead, and I'm so glad that you're doing it, from the viewpoint almost of emotion right now. Don't let anyone fail. I mean, I want that to be the mantra, and you guys are living that, what you just said. So I want to introduce your product to the market, because if you could say that over and over, and you people out there in the education field watching this video right now, you're to hear what I'm saying. All you need to care about the most is that you don't let anyone fall behind. You don't let anyone fail.
That's right.
And I think that addressing that a little bit more concrete to the type of customer that you were asking is the middle schoolers, right? We see a huge impact with this product in middle schoolers that have not developed the fluency, therefore they can't comprehend, right? So they go hand in hand. So I think that impact is felt, and we have great data to share. Like if they go through the program, they'll reach 90% proficiency, which is like, right?
Wow, it's like amazing.
It's amazing.
It's super cool. Well, cool. I think this has been really good introduction. I think you're going to need to add a little bit more information for the story, but say bye to all my viewers.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for being
Bye-bye.
with us. Bye,
Appreciate
you
it.
guys.